Should you get to work right on the dot, or should you be getting in a few minutes early? Do you talk with your coworkers, or should there generally be silence? Can you warm up fish in the microwave? These are all questions which are not always governed by SOPs and written procedures, but rather by the unwritten code of the workplace. They are enforced by nothing more than a sense of unease with coworkers. We are talking about peer accountability, and this is Lifeline. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 Podcast with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I'm your co host, Gary, and we appreciate you joining us today. We're talking about peer accountability. This is sort of when we talk about the culture of a workplace, of an environment, like how does a place actually function, to the rank and file? And it's not always something that's written down, but it is something that usually is well established. And in our industry, since we've had such an influx of new people, how do you kind of maintain the good habits and sort of uh, show the bad habits the door, I suppose?
Yeah. Good luck with that.
So I guess I kind of wanted to start by like talking about some examples of both positive and negative peer
Mhm.
accountability. So in our work environment, I think a positive one is sort of timeliness to work. So in a lot of offices and jobs, it might be okay to get to work right on time or even a couple of minutes late. But when you're talking about 911 or police dispatch, the person that is coming in is relieving a person leaving. So you know, the person that's trying to leave will not be appreciative that they have to stay another 6 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever for the
Yeah.
person coming in.
Yeah. And they have a way of holding each other accountable
Mm-hmm.
in ways that you and I don't have. I mean, it coming from us, it would be different. But
Mm,
coming from from their peers, it can be effective. It
yeah,
really can. Just knowing that they're all just kind of giving you the side eye, whether they say anything or not. They're just giving you the side eye, looking at you and looking at the clock or looking at you and looking at the watch. They may not say anything, but the message is clear.
right. Absolutely. And it's usually, you pick that up when you first start, like sort of the sense of like what's okay, what's not okay,
Hmm.
because you can't write a policy for everything. That would just be insane and be a horrendous place to work if you tried to have like everything in black and white. So the
I'm looking around urgently for
Mhm.
something to write with because you know that this in our work environment is a thing that we have wrestled with. And I wonder if anyone else is wrestling with this. So don't mind me
Yeah.
while I look for something to write this down with, because this is a topic you got it right here, folks. Live and in living color. Topic is born right here.
Hmm.
Carry on, Gary.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I mean, because there's so many things that can happen and can, you can't have a policy for it. You have to have sort of that sense that spirit decor, as they say
Hmm.
in militaries. What
Yeah.
is your purpose? Um, and you can have a good and bad culture. Because of course, like you don't want bullying in your company's culture. Um, but you know the ability of coworkers to hold their their peers accountable is something that's constant, as opposed to like a supervisor who they might have 40, 50 people they're looking after that day, so they can't keep a watchful eye on everybody.
Right. And
uh,
that's where um and then I don't know, maybe this is getting kind of off, but maybe not, because that's where your unofficial leaders can kind of come in and take a few things off of our plates because, excuse me, as a supervisor, you don't. You don't want to even have to try to corral everything. Ugh, it would be exhausting.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's where the peer, the peer to peer thing kind of helps take some of that off of our plate.
Yeah, absolutely. And uh, those people that do that also help set the standard. So
Mhm.
in our particular workplace, for example, like dress code, uh, different people have different um, levels of what they view as professional attire these days. Uh,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so, m- so our dress code is pretty permissible. So as long as it's not like sweatpants or
Mhm.
leggings or baggy clothes or something with holes in it, like you could wear
Yeah,
jeans. Um,
yeah.
or, yeah. Where so like what like kind of dress and styles do people wear to their work? Um, the written code of it says that it has to be meet at least these minimums, but is
Mhm.
that something that your work group is comfortable with, or do they want to be, more professional, or I
Sure.
guess,
Uniforms.
yeah,
'Cause some places like EMS for instance, sorry, I got a little bit of I'm fighting back a sneeze right now, so
uh,
it's
we've had a lot of fires in the area that have sent a lot of smoke our way
oh
lately.
my goodness, it's crazy. So, like, say for instance, EMS and fire at our center, they wear uniforms and they are required to have a certain outfit on every day without question. Now, I wonder if peer accountability comes into play when one of them, while they may have on the uniform, it's not exactly presentable.
Hmm. Yeah,
I mean, not really, not freshly ironed like it should be. I mean, it's ironed, but now not really.
yeah,
Is that what you mean? Like that kind of peer accountability? Because I'm asking for a friend.
yeah. No, no. I mean, like, well, with the uniform, it's a little bit different because you typically, most paramilitary organizations that have like a uniform do very much list out. Yeah, it has to be ironed. Any medals have to be 2 inches below the collar. Your rank insignia is
Yeah.
here, and like they're very very specific with that. Um,
Okay.
but if it were something that is more uh, like like if you had a policy that was like you have to be logged in and like ready to
Sorry.
take 911 calls at
Mm.
the top of the hour that you're working. So is uh logging in at if your work starts at 2 p.m., if you log in at 1:59:59, is that okay? Yes, by policy. Is that okay by the your peers, the other people that
Okay.
are taking calls?
So while they could not get in trouble for it because technically they are not late, but
Mhm.
if it's a body for body kind of relief system, which ours is for the most part. We have more 911 operators than we do dispatchers on at any given time. So it can get a little iffy in that regard, but let's just say peer to peer, you can't go home until I get there. And
Mhm.
there's pass down to be done.
Yeah.
While you may not be late, why then is that person required to stay the 2 or 3 extra minutes to receive, to give you the pass down that you were not there that 2 extra minutes ahead of time or 5 minutes or even 10.
Mhm.
So I guess in case somebody's wondering, because I even asked you in the beginning, pure accountability, what are we talking about? Are we talking about policies and procedures, or are we talking performance? What are we talking about? So that's what you mean.
Yeah, yeah, because, uh, and again, it's really based on your culture. So,
Hmm.
for you and I that work in this type of environment, what you just said about like getting to work a few minutes early to pass down makes total sense. Somebody in the random office job, uh, if they get in at 8 or 8:15, maybe they just stay 15 minutes after.
Sure.
And it doesn't really matter because it's not
No
like
one's
a
waiting for.
handoff. Yeah.
It's
Um,
you know what? I'm glad you said it that way, really, because actually that brings it. that really brings it into focus a little more for me. It's the handoff that's important.
Hmm.
It is because you cannot hand over the shift or hand over the position, hand over the officers, whatever it is, especially in our environment. You can't hand it off well if you're in a hurry to leave out of the door and that person is just running in and you're literally, kind of like a relay. They're
Yeah.
already taking off running out the door and you're trying to, catch up to them in order to get it doesn't work in our environment.
Right. And like even if
Mhm.
you're on like taking 911 calls, there's not maybe so much official pass down as there would be if you're like a supervisor in dispatch. But
Mhm.
that you could still say like, "Hey, we've had this crazy caller. Joe's been calling.
That's true.
So be aware of that." And or like, "Hey, there's been a lot of auto thefts. In the southwest part of town. So be aware of that." So, that you could still
You're
kind of
right.
give the sense of how the day's been going.
Well, and you know what? I just thought about it as you were saying that for a 911 perspective, you could give pass down in that, we just had this, there was a bank robbery, a couple of hours ago. One's still outstanding. Yeah. But, in case you get a call in this area, it might be
Hmm.
XYZ because they may not have a chance to do like we do, send out a big mass message around the floor. And by the time that person sits down, just may not have an opportunity to read through all of those before they get that call and they have no idea where to look. But
Right.
that's the benefit of coming in even 5 minutes. Now,
Hmm.
we're not talking about 45 minutes, 30 minutes, or even 15 for that matter. Somewhere the sweet spot is, 5 to 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
Closer to 10 is better. Less than 5, not so much.
Yeah. And I mean, like that's just one kind of aspect of it.
Mhm.
I mean, like for us, like I think you'll feel much better as a human being not being late. Um, just
True.
low stress, but um, you know that's just one part of the culture because like the written rule says you have to be in by top of the hour, but uh, the unwritten rule is hey, get in a few minutes early so we can have a more successful handoff. Um,
Yeah.
I'm a major movie guy. I like movies a lot. So I was actually just thinking just now, like, there's this great scene in the movie A Few Good Men uh, with Tom Cruise.
Oh, wow.
It's reaching back there to the
We
90s,
going, yeah, we're going back a ways. Okay.
but he's during the trial scene. Um, the doctor is talking about like, he's interrogating somebody on the witness stand, and Kevin
Ever.
Bacon just finishes with whatever he was doing, and Tom Cruise walks by him and grabs the like the Army manual or the Marine manual. He's like,
Mm.
"Hey, tell me where the mess hall is." And the guy that's on the witness stand is like, "It's not in this book." And so Tom Cruise is like, "You telling me there's no mess hall in this entire base?" And I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay, I'm with you because I'm trying to remember. I don't remember this part, but it's been so, oh my god,
Yeah, I
so
may
many years.
I may throw the clip in, but he's like there's not a mess hall on this entire base, and the guy's like, no, of course there is. And so Tom Cruise is like, well, how would people know about that? And the guy's like, well, I guess they just follow the crowd at lunchtime. That kind of the culture, that peer accountability of,
Yes.
this is how you do things and why you do things a lot of times
Yeah.
that is part of that it's more ephemeral than you could be with a policy manual.
I agree with that wholeheartedly because like you said, dress code is one, whereas it is I'm trying to think how I can say this without giving away too many details. An example of something, you know, I've seen employees at times do things and their peers will say, don't do that because you're gonna cost us XYZ. Whereas it may not be a policy. And no, if Erica saw it or Gary saw it or any of the other soups saw it, no, you not wouldn't necessarily be written up, but they're gonna get tired of policing this. You know what? The brake system is one.
Okay.
Wouldn't you agree? The
Yeah.
brake system, because we can't possibly in our center, it's It's too big. It's a great problem to have, but there's 20 plus on our shift a lot of days. There's absolutely no way for me to micromanage the break list. So
Hmm.
when you see someone, because they know we cannot watch all of them and we're otherwise occupied, it wouldn't be so bad if they just adjust their break times day after day after day after day. And maybe they may, you know, they're unwilling to bring it to our attention because they want to try to handle it themselves. Because if they bring it to our attention, we may go overboard in our approach to fix it. We may begin to overly police the brake system
Hmm.
because I don't know about you, but in my supervisor's head, I'm like, I do not have time for this. I have too many other things that are pulling on my attention. You guys really don't want me in this.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in this, now you have a more look, you just think you're frustrated now. It's about to get worse. So, what I have heard them do is they will attempt to correct it by peer accountability themselves
Hmm.
before and their thought process and their logic is you better get it together and you better stop it because if they find out about it, you're going to make it hard for all of us. They come just shy of saying, I'm going to meet you at the corner
Hmm.
and it's going to be bad for you if you cost us all these problems. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. And it was
Yeah.
actually quite recently that I had a variation of that.
Hmm.
And while I could admit it, well, actually, you know what? It was kind of funny. It really was. I'm not going to go into detail because some of these people listen to this.
You know who
But it
you
was
are.
funny. Yes, yes, you do. And I'll be honest, I was in the back like, mm, mm, okay, that's wow. Okay, no dukes are out yet, so I'm not gonna get in it. But if I had my popcorn and my Kool-Aid and I was just laying in the cut, just waiting to see what was gonna happen.
Hmm.
Pure accountability.
Exactly. And when you when the peer accountability breaks down and you do have, supervisors, management get involved, then you have new rules, and that's why new rules always have a name attached to them. So,
Yes, they do.
and then after, the rule book gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, and then it's just like, you got to memorize 800 pages of, uh,
Yes,
various rules.
some rule or SOP or something, and peer accountability from watching it, from afar, the way supervisors tend to have to watch it can be interesting because once there is a rule that comes out that has somebody's name on it, everybody makes sure that the person whose name is on the rule that it has just come out, they know that this is their fault. They
Yeah.
make it clear this is your fault. We have to do this now because so and so.
Yeah, and like, as we were saying, it's a fine line between pure accountability, in the sense that we're talking about it being a positive and
Mm,
it being like a negative, because you don't want to bully people, but
sure,
uh, you want to encourage them to do the right thing. It's sort of like the social norms that we used to have. Like, you know if you're driving on the road, I guess it's a law, but like if you're driving on the road, if you're in the fast lane, you should be passing people, not driving
sure.
slow.
Don't get in the granny lane and just do
Yeah.
5 under or 10 under. Now, granted, there is a law about it, but there is a sense in a way of peer accountability because they do hold you accountable if they're behind you because they honk at you
Hmm.
and they give you this wonderful salute that says you are number one, but not really.
Yeah, they use the wrong
And
finger
while
for it, but
mhm, but while the police are not present to enforce this, everybody knows that you're going to get your peers on the road, your fellow travelers are going to make it abundantly clear to you that you are being a moron.
hmm yeah,
Peer accountability.
yeah, and it's, I don't know, like, talking about it, it sounds like almost kind of a negative, but it's really like the it's the grease that keeps things turning, so you don't have to have every little thing accounted for at all times. It's like, just do the right thing, and that peer
Yes.
accountability is letting you know what that right thing is. Because if enough people are like, you're doing the wrong
Yes.
thing, they'll put pressure on you to change that. So it's I don't know. It's interesting to me to see because, like as you said, you'll see examples of people like, um, you know, at various degrees of aggressiveness, saying like, going back to going back to the timeliness issue, like, "Ooh, looks like you're late again today," um, as opposed to like maybe just saying, "Hey, good to see you. I'm leaving now because it's after my shift. Goodbye." So like, there's different levels
Mhm.
of like, I know you did something wrong. You know you did something wrong. Get here early next time without having to
Yeah.
say all that.
Yeah.
And that
And they
goes for.
do it and it happens. Well, it can be the same is true in supervision. We
Mhm,
have ways that we influence our peers when it comes to the way that we, I don't know if govern is the right word, but the way that we supervise or oversee our shifts, especially when it comes to, extending grace or not to extend grace. Some people are more prone to, some are less prone to, but I think as a collective, we do a pretty good job of saying, hey, while we obviously cannot force you to change your perspective, we cannot force you to do it this way,
mhm,
but just know that you're the odd man out here,
right.
and here's why.
Mhm,
And it doesn't become hostile, it doesn't become ugly. And we know that our it's better for us if we work it out and come to a collective agreement rather than to have our next level get involved. Because yes, if y'all are listening, sometimes we don't want y'all in the pudding at all. Mm-mm. Take your spoon and go back yonder. No, we don't want you in it. What? It's true. But
yeah.
that's what peer accountability is for in this case. You can influence your peers to either make the place better or change a behavior or change a cultural expectation without having to get the higher ups involved. It's
Mhm,
all about how you go about it though. So it can be as simple as that, or it can get complicated when people take that what should be a simple suggestion or stay in your lane type of peer accountability and take it up
yeah. And I mean, like,
outside of their what they're allowed to say and do.
yeah. I mean, like, it's not just in, emergency communications or even workplaces in general. Like, there's peer accountability literally everywhere you look. Like, if
Sure.
you're if you have siblings, you guys have, like, when you were
Mhm.
growing up, you had peer accountability, like, uh because you knew, like, if somebody like was horsing around and they got hurt and they started crying, then a higher authority was going to get involved, and there was going to be
Yep.
bad things. So you tried to,
Yes.
like, you can horse around and such, and like, wrestle, but don't wrestle too much because then
If
bad
you
things
break
happen.
something, then we're gonna get in trouble and then and then and then.
Yeah, and so like there's
And then
like, yeah, it's just part of every facet of life,
of
really.
life, I agree. Yeah. And so well, I mean, this may not be as meat and potatoes as some of the other episodes, but I think from all of my years in emergency communications, one of the things about the concept of peer accountability that used to always worry me is when it was taken too far
Hmm.
and it crossed the line from, hey, get here a few minutes early because it just makes the shift go better. It just makes my life easier. I get to go and I'm actually out the door when I should be out the door instead of later than that. And whether you realize it or not, new person, it's probably going to make your shift go better because you're going to be here a couple of minutes early. I'm going to give you the pass down and you get to ease into the shift
Hmm.
versus coming in at a dead run. We're just passing off. And some people may not give pass off, just because of that.
Hmm.
But then there's the other side of that. There's you're late and
Yeah.
I'm tired of being relieved at the last minute. Now we've crossed over into something else.
Hmm.
This is no longer just your run of the mill, peers holding each other accountable to keep the higher ups from getting involved. And I say this because someone may be listening to this going, ah, peer accountability. I can get whip some people into shape here. That's not what it is.
Yeah, I mean it can be used for good or ill, because if used properly, you can help keep an organization or a group of people, or even just your friends, like everybody stays in line, um,
Yeah.
and there's an agreed upon, though nothing formalized, sort of like what are the limits, what are the rules for a lot of the mundane little things that don't necessarily need a hard and fast policy, but whenever like the group working together can't come up with an answer to that, a lot of times then you will get a hard and fast policy, and most people will be unhappy with whatever that resolution is.
Yeah. And sometimes pure accountability is not appropriate depending on what it is. And that depends on your organization and what are the norms. I
Hmm.
think if there's a moral to this particular episode, if you will, is keep it keep it safe, keep it friendly, keep it within your realm of authority, keep it appropriate for your rank
Hmm.
and your position, and making sure that it is first and foremost up here.
Hmm.
Make
Yeah.
sure it's up here. And kind of like a golden rule. If you didn't know what was acceptable somewhere because you are new or you didn't mean any harm, wouldn't you want someone to kind of put a what they used to say, put a bug in your ear and be like, hey, I don't even know if you really know this, but here's what's not acceptable about XYZ. And this is kind of probably, here's a tip for you
Hmm.
versus, beating you over the head with making you feel bad. And now we've crossed over to something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It can be definitely taken to the extreme. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's been interesting, I think, to talk about it. Just kind of like because I had like an idea of like what I thought about it, but just kind of talking about it, it feels like there's a lot of negative connotations about most of the stuff we've said. Like other people keeping other people in line. Unspoken rules. Like there could be a lot of negative feelings about that, but like if used in the proper way, it can, I think, really, and you have good cohesion with your workmates or your group, then that can help everybody stay cohesive, stay together, and keep
Yeah.
working.
And
So,
and I agree with you. I know where we were kind of headed with it, or at least I thought I understood where you kind of wanted to go with it when you brought it up as a topic. But I think because we know the nature of our business and the personalities that tend to occupy our spaces, it's important for us to make sure that people know, well, yes, you can, to a degree, in a sense, hold your peers accountable, but you have to have the right culture first for that
yeah.
to be something that you can do. You have to have an understanding. There has to be, you know what? I take that back. Let me back up. There has to be mutual respect. There has to be professional respect. There has to be respect for that person, regardless whether they're on the wrong side of this accountability issue.
Hmm.
First and foremost, that is your colleague, and they're human and they have feelings and emotions. They like to be treated a certain way. So if you have a healthy culture, then sure,
Hmm.
peer accountability can be really, really good because it'll be used a certain way. But if your culture is not healthy and or you yourself who want to use peer accountability don't understand the boundaries, and that's where it can get a little sticky.
Hmm. And I guess uh, kind of like moving into like the uh, how can you change or affect culture if you want to in your place of business or with your group of friends. I would say try and model the behaviors that you yourself want to see. So,
Absolutely.
um, you know, ho- always hold yourself to a high standard and hold the people that you work with to that same high standard,
Hmm.
uh, because over time they'll see you and they'll appreciate how you're constantly doing that, and hopefully we'll adapt or adopt some of those characteristics as well.
So what you know what, and I know we're probably getting close to the time when we should be going, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're describing just here in this last few moments, I think is less of accountability and more influence.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. But I think that s- you can start influencing it. And if you have like a consistent push of that influence, it can then start to
Mhm.
change the culture because as more and more people,
Yes.
yeah, kind of agree to that.
Yeah. And but that's okay because you need both.
Hmm.
You need healthy, positive influence and examples in order, I think, to be able to wield effectively the peer accountability aspect. I think
Hmm.
that if you are, I think that's where your unofficial leadership comes in.
Yeah.
Your long-term employees that are almost automatically looked up to just because they are the OGs of the center,
Hmm.
and they have more authority and influence than they have any idea, and they are often our partners. And it is wonderful when you see that influence wielded in a positive way, and they hold their peers accountable in a healthy way.
Hmm.
So I think you have to have both. I
Yeah.
don't think you can have pure accountability without influence, healthy, good influence. And without in the absence of that healthy influence, what you then have is a perfect recipe for bullying.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a tightrope because you can.
Sure, it's a
Uh,
dance.
yeah, yeah, you can definitely end up in a place where, as you said, if your workplace doesn't have that culture of I trust you, I respect you, let's work together, then trying to have pure accountability handle a lot of things is going to be really difficult because
Mhm.
they're not going to, I'm not going to respect you, you're not going to trust me. So how can, I say, hey, Erica, like, um, make sure you know, clean up your station before you leave. And how can you say to me, hey, Gary, make sure you show up to work on time without that seeming like an attack?
Yeah, yeah.
So
So there you have it.
there you have it, folks. And we appreciate you for joining us today. And if you have any thoughts on peer accountability or culture, or if you're having any issues in your centers, please feel free to drop us an email at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. From all of us at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary,
I'm Erica.
and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911 Podcast, copyright 2025. From all of us at Lifeline, stay safe out there. And until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.